So there's a little demo of what I'm trying to do here, and this is the latest technique that's going to be featured in my noise mangler system. This is a live electronics performance system that I'm developing, and little caveat is that I'm restricting myself to basically what you see here, including the virus outside of the case. But essentially the virus fits in the case, and it's a great, well, not a great travel case, but it's a small travel case that I'll be able to travel around with, perform live. However, I wanted to develop a real dynamic improvisational system where I could manipulate sounds live, and it's difficult to do with this small of a setup. However, I know the Octatrack really well. I've been using it for years, so that's very useful. But I'm pretty new to Eurorack. I've only been using it a few years, and I'm getting all of these systems down. The Zoia is a big player in this. So what I felt like was really important was to be able to fade seamlessly in between the effects of the noise mangler and a dry signal of samples. My source material is very important to me, so I do want to have the option for it to be dry. And I figured that would be easy with the Octatrack, because for sure, and it's funny because I've used the Octatrack for maybe even 15 years now, but at least 10. And you would think that, of course, you'd be able to map the cue out to the slider, but in fact, that's not the case. So I had kind of built this all with this in mind, that I was going to be able to use the slider to go back and forth between the dry and wet signal. However, to my chagrin, what I've found is that you cannot map the cue out to the slider. And there's a lot of hacks that people have kind of come up with, including there's a setting in here. Let's see. Personalize. Cue mutes track. Looks like I have that on right now. I'm not sure if I need that, but I'll keep it on just for shits and giggles. Which will essentially mute the track and shoot it out, mute the mains and shoot it out into the cue, which is close, but it's not a smooth fade. It's a on-off, even though it does give you a tail as well. So anyways, the things that you're going to need for this is you will need some kind of like MIDI rerouter, and for that I'm using the Zoia Euroboros. I use this for all kinds of stuff, utility things mainly. As you can see here, I do have a little bit of audio processing. It's not plugged in yet. I'm still working on routing everything. So I did some research, and I figured out that the slider sends continuous control MIDI information. And I looked it up, and I also was like hoping beyond hope after I found out that you can't control the cue outs with the slider, is that you can control the cue level with also a MIDI continuous controller. So that was a good thing, because I actually previously have this whole system routed for MIDI, because I figured I would want to do some Octatrack to CV MIDI conversion, and potentially even with the joystick, and I haven't even gotten to this yet, but do some CV to MIDI on the Octatrack, and potentially control effects on the Octatrack with the joystick. So to finally go over the setup here. So what's going on is the MIDI from the MIDI out, which is MIDI CC 48, and I don't know why, but it has to be on channel 1, and I don't know if there's a way to change the MIDI channel. If there is, please let me know in the comments. Is being sent out to the Zoia from the Octatrack. And now I have, for other reasons, because I do controlling of a lot of video stuff, I actually have a big MIDI loop here. But that was also because I wanted to potentially control some Octatrack stuff with the controller and some other CV stuff. But as you can see, I moved the slider and the value is changing on the Zoia here. So what's happening there is it's also then changing the Q volume, and that's because it's coming into this module on the Zoia, then coming out of this module from the Zoia, being converted to MIDI CC47, which is the native control, once again on channel 1, for the Octatrack Q level, and it's then controlling it. So it's a little bit of trickery, and then also, you know, we're stepping down to 127 steps of volume, which, you know, I don't think... I'm okay with doing more rough sound stuff for live. So that's the MIDI portion, and that's how I'm getting the level, the Q level, to change. The audio portion, I don't really want to deal with the coming back into the Octatrack, mainly because I've not found it great as a live mixer, kind of like going right from the Octatrack to the PA. I've noticed sometimes sound guys think it's the signal's too quiet, so I have this external mixer here, this module mixer, the Vostok High, which is relatively new to me. But I have the main outs going to channel 1, so this is essentially the dry, and then the Q outs going to channel 3. So that's the wet. And now there's like a few advantages to this. Not to say I couldn't do it if I was mixing with the Octatrack, but I can set these levels to kind of like make for a smooth dry wet transition, because this is obviously like lower than the dry. The dry comes in not quite as hot as like all the distortion and the super gritty kind of effects that I have on here. The other thing is it allows for like a tail. So when I'm fading back and forth, the effects keep going, and you know, it's not just it doesn't just fade out the effects. They're allowed to like, and I'll show that, kind of echoes out. So it's a nice bonus kind of to the setup. So yeah, just I'll do another short demo of how this all works. So I'm gonna start with the dry. Get more distorted. And of course some of the bass kind of fades out too. Even in the middle, it's pretty good. It's a nice mix of a few signals. And then I'm going to start it in the wet, kind of demonstrate the idea of the tail, which is really nice. So if you come back really fast. And then you can also kind of do things like this. One beat, or if you want just like a mix. Some really weird stuff like that. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's funny because it's like not that complicated. It's way more complicated than I would have thought if you could just assign the slider to the Q level on the Octatrack. I get, because it's a DJ thing and the Q is not really ever meant to be mixed with what you can hear, why they didn't do that. But even after using this thing for years, it still surprises me in both its possibilities and its restrictions. But I find workarounds with a smaller setup. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps a few of you along the way.